Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to today's session. In today's lesson we're going to work on theme 4. We're going to introduce the theme and we're going to work on units number 1 and 2. Before we move on to the lesson, let's take a look at the objectives. In today's lesson we're going to read and discuss the meaning of the words and phrases related to the unit. We're going to practice skimming and scanning reading techniques. We're going to read for specific information, and we're going to review the different usages of can and can't. We're going to differentiate between the usage of can and can't, as well as the use of have to and don't have to. And finally, we're going to review the legal ages in Oman and other countries. So let's move on to page 49 of the coursebook. In this page, you will find the title of the theme and these 5 pictures, as well as a short reading text. Let's take a look at the title first. Let's understand the meaning of the words beginnings and endings. The first word, beginnings, mean start, the start of something. So when you start something, you begin doing that particular thing. Ending, which means finishing doing that thing or any other thing. Let's take a look at the pictures now. We have 5 pictures here, each one of them representing a unit in this theme. So the first one is a picture of a Maasai warrior. The second one is a picture of the car that's used in teaching people to drive in Oman. The third one is a lady at a wedding, or a woman at a wedding. The fourth one is the New Year greeting, رأس السنة الهجرية. The last one is about festivals. So each one of them is about a unit. So A will be about unit 1, B unit 2, C unit 3, D unit 4, and finally unit number 5. Now let's move on to the reading text on the same page. In this text, we have 2 things to do. We're going to get the overall meaning of the text, as well as finding or looking at the meaning of these highlighted words. If you read the text, you will find that it means the different cultural practices and societal customs related to marking significant life transitions and celebrating important events. So the meaning of the text the text discusses the cultural practices as well as celebrating an important event in someone's life. Now we're going to look at the words in the previous text. Here we have the words in order, but the definitions here are not in the correct order. So this is a matching activity. We're going to look at the words here and match them with the given definitions. We'll start with the first one, societies, which mean groups of people who share laws, organizations, and customs. Number 2, we have the word rituals, which mean a ceremony always done in the same way to mark an important religious or social occasion. Number 3, we have the word or the phrase rite of passage, which means a ceremony or a ritual that marks an important stage in someone's life. Number 4, we have the state of being an adult. Number 5 means behaving in a sensible and responsible way. Number 6 means ages at which the law states that people are old enough to do things. Number 7, the word marriage, which is the state of being married or wedding ceremony. Number 8, celebration. Occasion like a big party when you do something special. Number 9, an important social event. Number 10 means promises that you make to yourself at New Year to change your life. Number 11, festivals means events when people celebrate something. And finally, carnivals, festivals in which people dress up in brightly colored clothes and walk through the streets playing music. Now let's move on to the next page, unit number 1. Unit number 1 entitled Life Changes. So we'll cover the different stages of life, and we're going to do activities related to life changes. Look at activity 1. In this activity, we're going to read the quotation here, and we're going to discuss the quotation as well as this picture. William Shakespeare says, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being seven ages." The 7 ages here are described in this picture, which are the stages of a person's life. As you can see here in this picture, we have different stages of someone's life or a person's life. This picture is better described in the following activity or the coming activity. If you go to your workbook, page 44, you will find the different stages of the 7 pictures. So we have baby, a middle-aged person, a child, a teenager, a toddler, a pensioner, and a young adult. Let's start with the first one, picture A. As you can see, here we have someone who is being held by 2 hands, which means that this one is a baby. The second one is a picture of someone who is being helped by their parents, let's say, to walk, and this is called toddler. The next one is a picture of an old person, and they are called pensioners. So we have the word pensioner to describe the picture in C, which means an old person. Then we have picture D, which talks about or describes a child. And the last one, we have a picture of a teenager. The remaining 2 are the middle-aged person and the young adult. So when you move after being a teenager, when you move through the stages of life after being a teenager, you are considered as a young adult. And the stage before a pensioner is called a middle-aged person. Okay? Let's go back to page 50 of the coursebook, and we're going to look at activity 2. In this activity, we are going to read the text quickly, so we are going to skim the text, which skimming means reading the text quickly to get the overall idea. And in this part of the activity, we are going to skim the text to find the suitable title for the text. If you read the text, if you skim the text, you will find that the suitable title for the text is C. Titles A, B, and D are not specifically or thoroughly discussed throughout the text, because the text is not talking about a South American customs. It only talks about one special occasion. It doesn't give a description of someone's 15th birthday party, and it doesn't discuss teenage problems. If you go to activity 3 on the next page, in this activity, you are going to read the text again, the text in activity 2 in more detail. So you are going to scan the text and find answers for these 3 questions. Question A, what is the meaning of the phrase rite of passage? Or how can you describe the phrase rite of passage? Then we're going to find an answer for question 2. Why is 15 an important age for many young girls in Spanish-speaking countries? And finally, in Quinceanera, which is all described in activity 3, in the previous text. What is the significance of the following? A birthday cake, a doll, and a pair of shoes with flat heels. First, let's take a look at rite of passage. The term rite of passage is mentioned at the beginning of the text, which means a ritual. Then, in the second question, why 15, or why is 15 an important age for many young girls in Spanish-speaking countries? Because the ceremony marks the transition of that girl into womanhood. So she becomes, according to that country, it becomes an adult or a young adult, a woman. And finally, the significance of the birthday cake, the doll, and the pair of shoes means or symbolize things the girl is rejecting or ready to stop using or getting rid of in order to become a woman. The next activity is similar to the previous, which is about a ritual. And this ritual is done in the Maasai tribe. In this tribe, Maasai boys have to kill a lion. So in this text, we are going to answer the following question. What is the significance for Maasai boys of killing a lion? So if you go through the text, you will find that the significance of killing a lion for Maasai boys means that they became men and completed their tasks, and they were accepted as men. In these two texts, as you can notice, we have some words that are highlighted, like the word trials, embark on, and the rite of passage in the previous text. Illegal, here we have the word illegal. These words are going to be used in the coming activity in the workbook. So if you go to your workbook, page 44, you will find the definition of these words, or these phrases are the definition of the previous words, and you have to read the text and find the meanings of the previous or the highlighted words. First, we have the term, the definition, a kind of dance. So one of the words means a kind of words, which is mentioned in the first activity or the first reading text, which means, or the word is waltz. The second one, we are going to look at a word that means very important. And this specific word is significant. So significant means very important. Number 3, against the law, which is illegal. So illegal means something that the law doesn't allow you to do, or don't allow you to do. Number 4, difficult experiences mentioned in the text of the Maasai tribe or the Maasai boys, which means trials. Number 5, happening slowly, which means gradual. So step by step, gradual means step by step or happening slowly. Number 6, the states of being a woman. So if you go back to the first text, you will find this a word in this text means the state of being a woman, and that particular word is womanhood. Number 7, sign used to represent something, which is symbol. Number 8, changes from one state to another, which is a transition, which is mentioned in the previous reading texts. And finally, we have the word embark on, which means start on something, start doing something, embark on. You're going to use these words to write your own sentences as this example. So you are going to choose four words in order to practice and use them in useful sentences. Here we have the word significant or significance. Social media has a significant impact on our life. So social media has a very important impact on our life if we replace the word significant with its definition. Let's move on to the next activity in the workbook on page 44. Here in the box we have a list of prepositions. Prepositions mean the words that are used to describe where something happens or the place, the preposition of something. So we have of, to, out, with, in, on, by, and from. In this box we have two extra words, so we are going to use all of them except for two words. The first one, the girl dances waltz. Here we have the word or the phrase her father, so the suitable preposition here is the word with. The dress is very similar a wedding dress, so they are comparing or talking about a wedding dress here, so we can use the word or the preposition to. Many life changes take place from, so starting something from, and to death. So many life changes take place from birth to death. The girl's mother gives her a pair of shoes with high heels. So a pair of shoes with high heels here. The heels are a symbol of womanhood. The Maasai live, so here you are giving the place, Kenya and Tanzania. So we are going to use the preposition in when we talk about a location. The young Maasai boys have to embark a series of trials. So we are going to use the preposition on here. Finally, it's very difficult to kill a lion only a spear. A spear is a weapon that is thrown by warriors when they attack, let's say for example the lion, as with the Maasai boys or Maasai tribe, and we're going to use the term with here. That was the end of unit number 1, or the important activities in unit number 1, and let's move on to the second unit in today's lesson. Unit number 2, entitled Are You Old Enough?, discusses the different legal ages in which people do certain things. So here in this unit we are going to talk about ages in which people can do certain things in their countries. We're going to take a look at the legal ages in Oman as well as other countries in the coming activities. First, we're going to look at these three pictures and think of of what age are you allowed to do these things. First, we have learning how to drive, then voting in elections, and joining the military or joining the army. The first one, learning to drive. You are allowed to learn how to drive in Oman at the age of 18, to vote in elections at the age of 21, and to join the military or the army at the age of 18. If you move to activity number 2, here we have certain ages or legal ages in the UK. Then we're going to read the information here in this activity and match it, give true or false answer. If the statement was true in the next activity, we write the word T or the word true or the letter T. If there is no information given, we write NG, and if the information was false, we write the letter F. So in the UK, at the age of 12, you are allowed to buy a pet. A pet means the animal or a small animal that you can keep at your home and live with. And also, you are allowed to see films with a 12 certificate at the cinema or on DVD at home. Or the age, at the age 13, you can work part-time jobs, but the number of hours and type of work is restricted, so you have less work time than the adults. At the age of 15, you are allowed to see films with 15 certificate at the cinema or a DVD at home. At the age of 16, you are allowed to get married with parental consent, so your parents, your father and mother have to permit you to get married. You can join the armed forces with parental consent. You can apply for your own passport, buy a lottery ticket, and you can leave home, so you can live on your own. At the age of 17, you can learn to drive a car or a van on public roads. Be sent to an adult prison if you have committed a crime. So if you've done anything against the law, you are punished and you can go to prison at the age of 17 in the UK. At the age of 18, you can vote in an election, join the armed forces without parental consent. So here you don't need to ask your parents to allow you to join the armed forces. You can open your own bank account without parents' signature, and you can see films with 18 certificate at the cinema or DVD at home. So we're going to answer this activity by writing true, false, or NG. If you go back to the previous information or the previous activity, you will find the information needed to answer this activity. So look at the first one, or the first sentence here. You can join the armed forces when you are 16 if your parents agree. This is a true statement as or according to the previous information. You can learn to drive a car on private land when you are 14. This is NG. At the age of 14, they didn't mention if you can drive a car on private land when you are 14. At 17, you can vote in an election. So if you go back to the information, you will find that at 18, you can vote in elections. So this is false statement. You can work part-time jobs when you are, or part-time when you are 13. This is true. You can leave school at the age of 16. So if you go back to the information, you will find there is no information given about leaving school at 16 or any other age. And finally, you can apply for your own passport when you are 15. This is a false information. Now let's move on to the workbook activity 1 on page 46. In this activity, we are going to hear people talking about the laws in 3 different countries. The first country, Australia, the second is the US, and the last one is Japan. Before we listen, read the text carefully and try to guess what are the legal ages for people to do these activities in these 3 different countries. Pause the video and write your guesses on the space provided. Now listen carefully and check if your guesses were correct.
Listening 4.2.1.
The law in Australia says that young people are adults at 18. That's when they can vote. No, not can. They have to vote when they're adults. In Australia, it's the law. Young people can leave school at 16 and they can drive at 17. Australians can get married at 16 if their parents agree.
In the US, you can vote at 18, and in most states you can drive at 16. The age at which you can do other things is different from state to state. In some states, for example Arkansas, you have to stay at school until you're 18, but in other states, like Alaska, you can leave school at 16. In most states, you can get married at 16 if your parents agree. In California, you can marry at any age if your parents agree.
In Japan, young people can leave school at 15 and drive at 18. The law in Japan says that people are adults at 20. They have special celebrations then. Japanese people can vote when they are 20. Girls can get married at 16, but boys have to wait until they're 18. I don't know why boys have to be older than girls.
Okay, now let's check the answers. First, let's look at the first country, Australia. In Australia, young people are adults at the age of 18, and young people can leave school at the age of 16, and they can drive at the age of 17. Australians can get married at the age of 16 if their parents agree. Now let's look at the second country, the US. In the US, you can vote at the age of 18 and you can drive at the age of 16. The laws in the US are different from a state to another state. For example, in Arkansas, you have to stay at school until you are 18, and in other states like Alaska, you can leave school at 16. In most states in the US, you can get married at the age of 16 if your parents agree, but in California, you can marry at any age if your parents agree. The last country, Japan, young people can leave school at the age of 15 and drive at the age of 18. The law in Japan says that people are adults at the age of 20 and they can vote at the age of 20 also. Girls can get married in Japan at the age of 16, but boys have to wait until they are 18. Now let's move on to the next activity on the next page. Now let's look at activity number 2. Activity number 2 on page 47. We're going to read the information in the completed text on page 46 and answer the following questions. The first one, question A. Where do you have to be 20 before you can vote? So in which country you have to be 20 before you can vote? And in the listening and in the text it's mentioned that in Japan you can vote at the age of 20. B. Where can you drive a car at 16? And in the US it's mentioned in the second text that in the US you can drive at the age of 16. C. Where does the law say you have to vote when you are an adult? This is mentioned in the first text in the country of Australia. The fourth question, D. Where do you have to be 18 before you can leave school? It's mentioned that in the state of Arkansas, you have to stay at school until you are 18. Where can you drive at 17? It's mentioned in the first text in the country of Australia. And the last question, F, where do boys have to wait longer than girls to get married? And it's mentioned in the last text in the country of Japan. Now let's move to the course book on page 53 to look at the grammar section in unit number 2. In this page, we can see in the grammar recall the usage of can and cannot, or can't. On the right side of the grammar recall, we have the usage or the different usages of can and cannot, and on the left side we have 6 different sentences, and we have to match each sentence with its proper usage. Let's look at the first usage, A. We use can and can't to talk about ability. For example, he can swim well, or I can't speak Arabic. So in the first example, he can swim well. We're expressing the ability of a person, that his ability, he can swim well. For the next usage, B, we use can or can't to express possibility. For example, you can't park here. So it is not allowed, or it's not possible to park here. And you can call me anytime. So it's possible to call me anytime. We use can to express, we use can to express permissions. For example, the class is over, you can leave the class now. So you are allowed to leave the class. In D, we use can't to express prohibition. So when we talk about something that you can't do or you're not allowed to do, we use can't. For example, the class isn't over, you cannot leave the class. E, we use can't for deduction. It can't be the time to leave, we only just got here, as an example. And finally, F, we use can for offers and request. For example, can I give you, or can I get you a cup of water? Now let's match the sentences with their proper usage. Let's look at the first one. In the first sentence, we can see that the usage of can't here is D, to express prohibition, because you can't it's prohibited to get married before you are 16 in the UK. The second sentence we use for offers and requests. So here, can you do me a favor? They are requesting a favor from someone. Number 3, we talk about the ability. He can sing well. Number 4, it can't be hungry. She just had lunch. So this is deduction in E. The fifth sentence, you can get a good view from the top of Burj Khalifa, and it's B, to express possibility. So it's possible to get a good view from the top of Burj Khalifa. And finally, you can go home early is C, to express permission. Now let's take a look at the next activity. We're going to do some practice with this, or with the usage of can or cannot. Let's go to activity 3 on page 52 of the coursebook and see the usage of can in requests and offers. In this activity, we have to decide if the question, or the given questions, are a request or an offer. Look at the first question. Can she get here for 10 o'clock tomorrow? Here we're asking if it is possible to get here at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Can I get you something to drink? So here they're asking if someone wants something to drink, so they're offering a drink to someone. Can you pass me the salt? So we are asking someone to give us the salt, so this is a request. Can we fly to New York direct from Muscat? So here we're asking if it is possible to fly to New York directly from Muscat. Can I use your phone? E. Here I'm requesting to use somebody's phone. Finally, can I take your coat? So imagine that someone has entered a restaurant, for example, and you're asking him or her to give you the coat in order to hang it there. So this is an offer. Let's move to the workbook, page 47. We're going to see, in activity 3, we're going to see the difference between the use of can, can't, have to, or don't have to. As we answer the activity, we're going to discuss the difference between these four terms. The first example, students can't talk during the exam. That's the rule. So students are prohibited from talking during the exam. Number 2, this is a private road, so we are prohibited from driving on that private road, so we use the term can't to express prohibition. Number 3, you can take your laptop to class if you want to. Here, you are allowed or you are permitted. This is permission. You are allowed to take your laptop to class if you want to, and we use the term can't or the word can't. Number 4, there is a party tomorrow, but we don't have to go if we don't want to. We use don't have to when we have a choice in what we are doing or what we are expressing. Number 5, British people who want to visit Oman have to obtain a visa. So you have to get a visa. This is expressing obligation. You have to get a visa if you want to come to Oman. Number 6, I can't, expressing possibility. It's not possible for me to go out tonight, so I can't go out tonight. I have got an exam tomorrow. I have to study. Finally, can I park? Can I park in that parking space? This is a request. No, you can't. This is prohibition. You are not allowed because it's the director's parking space here. It's the director's. Let's look at activity number 4. In this activity, we're going to match the sentences on the left with the situations on the right. Before you answer, pause the video and answer the activity on your own, then play the video and check your answers. Let's look at the first sentence. The boss can't have gone home because how did we find that? Because his laptop is still on his desk. That can't be Saleh. I thought he was in the US. Number 6 is the correct situation here. They can't be married yet. Number 4, they only just got engaged. Dubai can't be far now. We've been driving for 6 hours. Number 7. You can't be sleepy. You have only just got up. Number 1. She can't have passed her exams. She never did any work. So it's not possible that she passed her exams because she didn't work or she never did any work. And finally, you can't have finished this exercise already because you've only just started it. Now let's move on to the grammar practice on page 67 of the workbook, and let's look at activity number 1. In the first part on the left side of activity number 1, we have questions, and on the right side we have answers. So we need to match the questions with the answers. We will write the numbers here in the space provided or in the boxes. Before we do the activity, pause the video and match between the questions and the answers. Now let's answer the activity. The first question: can Ahmed play the piano? Yes, 3, yes, and the violin 2. B, can you finish that work by Tuesday? I will try, but can't you give me more time? C, can Anna speak Turkish? Yes, she used to live in Istanbul. Can your husband cook? Not really, number 7, but he's quite good at barbecues. Can you remember where he lives? Number 1 is the answer here. I think it's Al Fahud Street. F, can you tell me the time? Number 4, let me see, 4:05. And finally, in G, can you smell something burning? Oh no, I forgot to turn the oven off. Number 2. Now let's move on to the next activity in the grammar practice. Activity number 2 on page 67. Here we're going to use can, can't, have to, or don't have to fill in the blanks. Pause the video and answer the activity, then play and check your answer. Play the video and check your answers. Let's look at the sentences or the text. The first one, you, we said we use have to when we talk about obligations. So the first answer is have to. Number 2, you have to arrive 1 day before the start of the semester. So here we used have to because you are obliged to arrive 1 day before the semester. Number 3, you don't have to live in the college accommodation, so you have the choice to live wherever you want if you don't want to. This is a choice. Number 4, you can find your own accommodation if you prefer. Number 5, you can take several courses during one semester. So here you are allowed, if you want to take several courses during the semester, you can. So we used the term can here. You can't take more than 4 courses. You are not allowed to take more than 4 courses. So you can take several courses, but you are not allowed to take more than 4. Number 7, you can take your laptop to lecture if you want to, but you can't take your mobile phone. So you are allowed to take your laptop, but you are not allowed or prohibited from taking your phone. Let's move to the final activity on page 67 of the workbook, activity 3. Here we're going to read the statements or the sentences and choose the correct alternative. Look at the first one. A, you can or can't buy a pet in the UK until you are 12. The correct alternative here is can't, because if you are not at the age of 12, you are prohibited to buy a pet in the UK. The second one, you don't have to wear formal dress. This part of the sentence, you have the choice of wearing a formal dress or not wearing a formal dress. So you have the choice. The second part, but you can if you want to. So here we're given a choice of wearing a formal dress if we want to. The third sentence, when it rains, you have to drive very carefully. This is an obligation. It's necessary to drive carefully. You are obliged to drive carefully because the roads are wet. D, you can't eat or drink during Ramadan. You are not, or you are prohibited from eating or drinking during Ramadan. E, if you want to go to an opera at the Royal Opera House, you have to buy a ticket. So you are obliged to buy a ticket. It's an obligation. Finally, the last one, you can bring your mobile phone into the opera house, but you have a choice, or you are allowed to bring your mobile phone in the opera house, but you can't use it in the opera house. And the last part, you have to switch it off during the performances. Obligation. Here using have to express obligation. That was the end of the lesson. If you need more information on the grammar rule or on the use of can, can't, have to, or don't have to, you can go to your workbook pages 77 and 78. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a nice day.